Life is full of risks, as if the universe itself is constantly whispering to us, step forward, take that leap, trust the unknown yet. So often we hold back. We hesitate, we analyze, we fear what might happen if we make the wrong choice. But here's the thing, there is no right or wrong in the way we usually think of it. Life is not a series of decisions leading to an ultimate prize, like a game where the goal is to avoid mistakes. It's more like a river, always flowing, and every step you take is part of the current. Uncertainty is often seen as something to be avoided, a source of discomfort, fear, and anxiety. We tend to cling to what is familiar, to what we can predict and control, believing that only in certainty can we find peace. But if we take a deeper look, uncertainty is not something to be feared. It's an essential part of the human experience. It is the fertile ground where new possibilities, creativity, and transformation can arise. When we embrace uncertainty, we stop seeing it as a problem to be solved and start seeing it as an invitation to grow. The moment we stop resisting the unknown is the moment we open ourselves to new opportunities. Life doesn't unfold in neat, predictable lines, and that is where its beauty lies. Every step into the unknown, every choice that doesn't come with a guaranteed outcome, is an opportunity to explore, to learn, and to experience life in its full complexity. Living in uncertainty means recognizing that not everything can or should be planned. The more we try to control every aspect of our lives, the more we stifle the natural flow of things. By accepting uncertainty, we begin to loosen the grip of control and allow ourselves to trust in the process of life. This trust doesn't mean that we don't take responsibility for our actions or decisions, but it means that we understand that not every outcome is within our control, and that's okay. Uncertainty teaches us to become comfortable with the unknown. It helps us build resilience, adaptability, and a sense of freedom. When we stop trying to predict every twist and turn, we can respond to life with openness, flexibility, and a sense of curiosity. Instead of fearing the unknown, we can approach it with wonder as a blank canvas where we can paint our own experiences, uninhibited by the fear of making mistakes or facing what's unfamiliar. By embracing uncertainty, we also free ourselves from the need for perfection. Life is messy, chaotic, and full of unpredictability, but it is precisely this unpredictability that gives it meaning. The risks, the surprises, the changes, they are what make life rich, vivid, and full of texture. When we learn to embrace uncertainty, we stop expecting life to unfold in a way that fits our narrow vision, and we start to experience it in all its fullness, trusting that whatever happens is an opportunity to be fully alive in the moment. In embracing uncertainty, we stop trying to control life and start dancing with it. We let go of the illusion that we can foresee and prevent every challenge, and we find the courage to step into the unknown with openness, joy, and a sense of adventure. This is not a passive surrender, but an active participation in life's unfolding story. And in that participation, we find the freedom to grow, to adapt, and to experience the richness of being fully present in an uncertain world. Risk is often viewed as something dangerous or uncomfortable, a potential for loss or failure. But in truth, risk is the very soil in which growth takes root. Without risk, there is no transformation, no expansion, no stepping into new possibilities. It is in the moments of uncertainty, when we venture beyond the familiar, that we encounter the opportunity for our greatest evolution. When we take a risk, we are not just making a choice, we are opening ourselves to a new experience, one that challenges our boundaries and pushes us outside our comfort zones. Growth happens when we confront what we don't know, when we expose ourselves to situations that test our limits. It is through these moments of vulnerability that we discover new aspects of ourselves, strengths we didn't know we had, courage we didn't realize was there, and resilience that comes from facing what once seemed impossible. Risk requires us to let go of the need for certainty. It asks us to trust the process of life and the inherent wisdom that lies within us. It is in these moments of risk that we learn to trust our intuition, to rely not on logic alone, but on the deeper knowing that comes when we are truly engaged with the present moment. When we take risks, we move from merely existing in a static way to actively participating in the unfolding of our own lives. As we step into new, uncertain territory, we may stumble, we may encounter failure or disappointment. But it is through these experiences that we learn what doesn't work, which in turn informs what does. Failure is not an endpoint, it is a lesson. Every setback, every misstep offers a piece of the puzzle that we could never have discovered without taking the risk in the first place. It is in this process of trial and error that we refine ourselves, gaining clarity about who we are and what we truly want. Risk is growth because it is the catalyst for change. Without it, we remain in the same place, never stretching, never reaching for something more. We become stagnant, living within the narrow confines of what is safe and predictable. True growth is about venturing beyond these boundaries, allowing ourselves to be stretched, expanded, and reshaped by the experiences we encounter. It is about discovering new dimensions of who we are and becoming more than we once thought possible. When we risk something, we are also risking the old, the outdated parts of ourselves that no longer serve us. These are the beliefs, fears, and habits that hold us back, keeping us trapped in patterns that prevent us from stepping into our full potential. By embracing risk, we challenge these limitations and free ourselves from the constraints we have placed on our own growth. Risk is not just about moving forward, it is also about shedding the old skin, the outdated identity that keeps us small. It's important to recognize that growth doesn't always look the way we expect it to. Sometimes it's messy, uncomfortable, or difficult. The process of growth is not linear. It involves moments of uncertainty, moments when the path seems unclear. But these moments are the very ones that shape us. It is in the face of risk that we are given the opportunity to transform, to break free from the constraints of the past and create a new future for ourselves. In the end, risk and growth are inseparable. Every time we face a challenge, we are being invited to grow. Every time we step into the unknown, we are being offered the chance to expand. And every time we embrace the discomfort of risk, we are aligning ourselves with the flow of life, where growth happens not despite the challenges, but because of them. Trusting your intuition is one of the most profound and natural acts you can engage in. It is the quiet inner knowing that arises not from logical analysis or external advice, but from an innate understanding that transcends words and reasoning. Often we seek answers outside ourselves, looking for solutions from experts, books, or advice from others. However, deep down, we all possess an inner compass, one that knows the way, even when the path is unclear. This intuitive wisdom is not something to be ignored or dismissed, but something to be embraced and cultivated. Intuition is the voice of experience, distilled through your unique perspective. It draws upon the accumulated knowledge of all your past experiences, conscious and unconscious, and offers insights that are often more accurate than what we can rationally deduce. We often second-guess it, thinking that it's too vague or too subtle to be trusted. But intuition speaks in quiet nudges, in gut feelings, in moments of clarity that can arise seemingly out of nowhere. These flashes of insight are often more reliable than overthinking because they come from a deeper, more integrated place within us. The beauty of intuition is that it isn't bound by time or circumstance. It operates on a different plane from the limited, logical mind. While the mind analyzes, plans, and calculates, intuition responds to the underlying flow of life, sensing what is beneath the surface. It is the part of us that understands the connections between things before we consciously do. It's the sudden feeling that something is right, even when the mind cannot fully explain why. It is the whisper that tells you to trust someone, to take a leap, or to walk away from a situation even when the evidence might suggest otherwise. When we learn to trust our intuition, we step away from the constant need for certainty and control. We move away from overanalysis and the fear of making mistakes, instead allowing ourselves to be guided by something more fluid, more adaptable. It's not about avoiding rational thought, but about recognizing that our rational minds can only take us so far. Sometimes the answers lie beyond logic, in the realm of instinct, feeling, and inner knowing. Intuition allows us to make decisions that align with our true self, not just with the demands or expectations of others or society. Trusting your intuition also requires surrender, a letting go of the need to force outcomes or follow a prescribed path. It is an act of faith in yourself, in your inner wisdom, and in the unfolding process of life. The more we resist our intuition, the more we create dissonance within ourselves, drowning out the subtle signals that are trying to guide us. When we finally surrender to this inner voice, we experience a sense of relief, as though we've been carrying a heavy burden and now have the courage to set it down. Trusting intuition is like remembering a song you've always known but had forgotten. Once you begin to listen, it becomes easier, clearer, and more natural. When we release the idea of a fixed destination, we open ourselves to endless possibilities. Life is not a linear path, but a vast, open field of experiences. There is no single way to live it, no one-size-fits-all formula for success. When we stop focusing on the destination, we start to see the many paths that are available to us. We become more willing to try new things, to explore, to change course, and to take risks. The journey becomes less about following a set route and more about discovering what resonates with us, what excites us, and what calls us forward. Life as a process invites us to be curious, to explore, and to embrace the unknown. The beauty of life lies in its process. When we stop fixating on the destination, we begin to see that life is already unfolding in a way that is perfect in its imperfection. Every moment is an opportunity to experience the richness of existence, to engage with the world in a way that is deeply personal and ever-changing. The destination may never arrive, and that is precisely what makes the journey worth living. It's in the process of becoming that we discover the true meaning of life. Mistakes are often seen as something to avoid or fear, as if they are failures that tarnish our path and hinder our progress. In reality, mistakes are among the most powerful teachers we will ever encounter. They are not obstacles or signs of inadequacy, but opportunities to learn, grow, and refine our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. When we view mistakes this way, we begin to embrace them as integral parts of the journey, not as detours that prevent us from reaching our goals. Every mistake contains a lesson, even if that lesson isn't immediately clear. It's easy to fall into the trap of self-criticism or disappointment when things go wrong, but this only reinforces the belief that mistakes are something negative. Instead, we can choose to see them as chances to reflect, adjust, and improve. When we make a mistake, we are given the opportunity to pause, evaluate what went wrong, and consider what we might do differently next time. This reflection allows us to gain deeper insights into our choices, our actions, and our motivations. It forces us to reassess our approach, which often leads to more informed, conscious decision-making in the future. Mistakes are a natural part of the learning process. Think of a child learning to walk. They fall countless times, yet each fall is a small step toward mastering the skill. With each fall, the child gains more balance, more strength, and more understanding of how their body moves. Similarly, in life, when we make mistakes, we gain more clarity about the choices we make and the paths we take. Mistakes show us where we need to grow, where we need more practice, or where we need a new perspective. Without them, we would remain stagnant, relying only on what we already know and never advancing beyond our current limitations. One of the greatest gifts of mistakes is the opportunity to build resilience. When something goes wrong, our first instinct might be to feel discouraged or defeated. But over time, we learn that failure is not final, and that the ability to bounce back and keep going is what truly matters. Resilience is the muscle that allows us to recover, adapt, and continue moving forward, even in the face of setbacks. Each mistake, no matter how painful it may seem in the moment, strengthens this muscle, teaching us to persevere and embrace the challenges that lie ahead. It reminds us that we are capable of more than we realize and that we can always start again, with more wisdom and experience than before. Mistakes also help us cultivate humility. When we experience failure or make an error, it serves as a reminder that we are not infallible. We are human, and being human means that we will occasionally stumble. Humility is born out of this acknowledgement that we do not have all the answers, and that we are constantly learning and evolving. This openness to learning fosters growth and fosters a deeper connection with others, as we can relate to their struggles and mistakes as well. It encourages us to be more compassionate, both with ourselves and with others, understanding that everyone is on their own journey, encountering their own challenges. In a broader sense, mistakes help us shape our values and priorities. When we make a misstep, it often leads to a reassessment of what truly matters to us. Sometimes it's not the mistake itself, but the consequences that follow that teach us the most profound lessons. These moments of reflection can lead us to realign our actions with our deeper values. We learn what is important and what is not, what is worth pursuing and what we should leave behind. This process of realignment often brings a greater sense of clarity, helping us focus our energy on what truly brings us fulfillment. Mistakes also fuel creativity. The fear of making a mistake often keeps us stuck in a rigid mindset, limiting our ability to think outside the box. But when we let go of that fear and allow ourselves the freedom to make errors, we open up to new possibilities. Mistakes break the mold of perfectionism and push us to innovate. Some of the greatest inventions and breakthroughs in history came about because someone was willing to take a risk, make a mistake, and then learn from it. Embracing mistakes as part of the creative process can lead us to unexpected discoveries and solutions, allowing us to approach problems from different angles. Furthermore, mistakes teach us patience. In a world where instant gratification is often the norm, it's easy to get frustrated when things don't go as planned or when progress feels slow. But mistakes remind us that growth takes time. It's through trial and error that we develop mastery, and this process requires patience and persistence. When we make mistakes, we realize that success doesn't come overnight and that the path to achievement is often winding, filled with obstacles and detours. Learning to be patient with ourselves in the process helps us appreciate the journey rather than simply focusing on the destination. Ultimately, learning from mistakes is about reframing our perception of failure. Instead of seeing mistakes as something to be feared or avoided, we can choose to see them as the building blocks of wisdom and growth. Mistakes are not signs of incompetence, they are signs of engagement, of trying, of taking risks. Every misstep carries the potential for insight and learning. When we approach life with this mindset, we open ourselves to a deeper, more meaningful experience, one where we honor the process of becoming rather than fixating on a perfect outcome. Through mistakes, we learn to navigate the complexities of life, to understand ourselves and the world more deeply, and to become more resilient, creative, and compassionate human beings. To be present is to fully engage with the moment at hand, without distraction or preoccupation with the past or future. It is the art of focusing all of your awareness on what is happening right now, letting go of the need to analyze, control, or judge. In a world that is constantly pulling us in different directions, where our minds are often cluttered with thoughts of what has happened or what may come, being present can seem like a radical act. But it is in this very act of presence that life becomes more vibrant, meaningful, and authentic. When we are present, we allow ourselves to experience life as it is, without the filter of expectation, regret, or worry. We stop rushing through the moments, ticking off tasks on a never-ending to-do list, and instead we allow ourselves to savor the richness of the present. This means being fully attuned to the sensations around us, whether it's the feeling of the sun on our skin, the sound of a bird singing, or the taste of a meal. These simple experiences, when fully embraced, connect us to the deeper, more profound beauty of life. We realize that life is not something to be endured or hurried through, but something to be lived one moment at a time. Being present also involves letting go of the need to control everything. So often we spend our time trying to predict what will happen next or planning for the future, all in an effort to maintain a sense of security. Yet the future is uncertain, and no amount of planning or anticipation can guarantee outcomes. By being present, we release the grip of control and allow ourselves to flow with life as it unfolds. This doesn't mean being passive or careless. It means accepting the impermanence of the moment and responding to it with awareness and openness, instead of trying to force things to go a particular way. Another aspect of being present is cultivating mindfulness in our actions. Whether we are washing the dishes, taking a walk, or having a conversation, being present means fully participating in the activity, not thinking about something else or letting our mind wander. This deep engagement brings a sense of calm and fulfillment as we move through life with intention and focus. By giving our full attention to what we are doing, we create a deeper connection to ourselves and the world around us. We begin to notice things we may have overlooked before, the subtle details, the beauty in the mundane, and the feelings that arise in the moment. Being present also helps us navigate the challenges of life with greater clarity. When we are consumed by the past or future, our minds can become clouded with anxiety, regret, or fear. But when we focus on the present, we are better able to respond with calm and clarity. In moments of stress or uncertainty, the act of grounding ourselves in the present moment can be a powerful tool. It allows us to step out of the whirlwind of our thoughts and recenter, helping us to approach challenges with a clearer perspective and a more peaceful mind. Being present also nurtures deeper connections with others. In our fast-paced, distracted world, it is easy to be physically present but mentally absent. How often are we caught scrolling through our phones or thinking about our own concerns while we others? Being truly present in our relationships means giving others our full attention, listening deeply, and engaging with empathy. This creates a space for authentic connection, where both people feel heard, seen, and valued. It fosters a sense of mutual respect and understanding, strengthening bonds and creating a deeper sense of intimacy. Moreover, the act of being present allows us to become more aware of our inner world. It gives us the space to observe our thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations without judgment. By being in tune with ourselves, we can recognize patterns, understand our needs, and respond more consciously to the impulses and reactions that arise. This self-awareness is essential for personal growth, as it enables us to make more intentional choices, cultivate emotional intelligence, and live more in alignment with our values. When we are present, we also invite a sense of peace and gratitude into our lives. So often we are conditioned to focus on what we lack, what we want to change, or what isn't working. But being present shifts our focus to what is, and in doing so, we begin to appreciate the ordinary moments that make life extraordinary. We realize that happiness is not something that must be pursued or earned in the future, but something that can be found in the here and now, in the simple act of fully experiencing the present moment. Being present is a practice, one that requires mindfulness and intention. It is easy to slip back into old habits of worrying about the future or dwelling on the past. However, with practice, we can train ourselves to return to the present again and again. We learn to recognize when our attention has wandered and gently bring ourselves back to the moment. This practice is not about perfection or never getting distracted. It is about cultivating awareness and learning to live more fully moment by moment. The more we practice, the more natural it becomes, and the more we begin to appreciate the fullness of life as it is. To be present is to truly live. It is to embrace the richness of each moment, to engage with the world around us, and to connect with ourselves and others in a deep and meaningful way. In this state of presence, we experience life in its fullness, unfiltered, authentic, and alive. It is a gift we give ourselves, and it allows us to experience the profound beauty and simplicity that is always here, if only we take the time to notice. Life has a way of unfolding that is beyond our control, yet so often we find ourselves trying to bend it to our will. We resist change, we fight against circumstances, and we struggle with the flow of events as though we could somehow force life to follow a predetermined path. But life, by its very nature, is fluid, ever-changing, and unpredictable. The more we try to resist its flow, the more we tire ourselves out, creating friction that drains our energy and prevents us from fully experiencing the richness of existence. When we learn to flow with life rather than resist it, we discover a deeper sense of ease, peace, and connection to the present moment. Resisting life often stems from a desire for control. We believe that if we can just manage every aspect, if we can predict and plan everything down to the smallest detail, then we can create the perfect life. But life is not something that can be controlled or contained. It is like a river, constantly moving, shifting, and evolving. No matter how tightly we grip the oars, the current will always carry us forward. When we stop resisting, we begin to let go of the illusion of control and embrace the unknown. We stop trying to force outcomes and start trusting that life in its natural course will unfold as it should. When we resist, we cling to expectations, hoping that things will go the way we envision them. We become attached to the idea of a specific outcome. And when reality doesn't align with that vision, frustration sets in. But expectations often blind us to what is actually happening in the present moment. Life doesn't always unfold according to our plans, but that doesn't mean it's wrong or incomplete. By resisting what is, we shut ourselves off from the opportunities that are right in front of us. When we let go of these rigid expectations, we open ourselves to the unexpected surprises and possibilities that life has to offer. We realize that the journey is often more meaningful than any fixed destination we may have imagined. Flowing with life also means accepting uncertainty. We often resist the unknown, feeling safer when we can anticipate what comes next. But life is full of uncertainty, and in that uncertainty lies the potential for growth, discovery, and transformation. When we stop fearing the unknown and embrace it as a part of life's natural rhythm, we unlock new dimensions of experience. The unexpected moments, the detours, the changes, the things that don't go according to plan are often where we find the greatest opportunities for learning and personal growth. By flowing with life, we move with the currents of change rather than trying to swim against them. To flow with life is to accept that we cannot always control the timing or outcomes of our actions. Sometimes we will try our best only to find that things don't unfold as we hope. In these moments, resistance often arises, accompanied by frustration, anger, or disappointment. But when we resist, we only create more struggle. Life moves at its own pace, and all we can do is show up, do our best, and trust the process. The beauty of life lies in its imperfections and unpredictability. When we stop trying to control everything, we allow ourselves to be in sync with the rhythm of life, flowing with its ups and downs without resistance. This doesn't mean passivity, but rather an active engagement with the flow, responding to the moment as it arises without judgment or expectation. When we resist, we often create internal conflict between what we want and what is. This tension can manifest as stress, anxiety, or frustration, as we try to reconcile the reality of the present with our desires for how things should be. But when we stop resisting, we create space for peace and acceptance. We acknowledge that things may not always be as we wish them to be, but they are as they need to be in that moment. We stop fighting with reality, and instead we begin to work with it. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up or resigning ourselves to the status quo. It means recognizing that life is a dynamic process, and we are part of it. We can move with the changes, adapt, and make choices that align with the flow, rather than constantly pushing against it. Flowing with life also encourages us to cultivate patience. We live in a culture that values speed, efficiency, and instant gratification. But the natural world operates at its own pace. Seasons change, plants grow, and rivers carve valleys over time. In the same way, our lives unfold in a series of stages, with moments of growth, transformation, and rest. When we stop resisting the natural timing of life, we give ourselves the grace to move at our own pace. There is no need to rush. By trusting the process, we allow ourselves the time and space to fully experience each moment, appreciating the gradual unfolding of our personal journey. When we flow with life, we also learn to let go of the need for perfection. The need for everything to be flawless, predictable, and controlled is a form of resistance to the natural flow of things. Life in its essence is imperfect, and that's what makes it beautiful. Every imperfection, every unexpected twist, every mistake contributes to the unique and rich tapestry of our experience. Instead of resisting these imperfections, we learn to embrace them as part of the process. We let go of our obsession with getting everything right and allow ourselves the freedom to experience life in all its raw, untamed beauty. Ultimately, when we flow with life, we are no longer rigid in our thinking or actions. We stop trying to force outcomes or impose our will on the world around us. Instead, we become attuned to the rhythm of life, moving with its natural ebb and flow, responding to each moment as it comes. This doesn't mean that we become passive or complacent. It means that we trust in the process, embrace change, and allow ourselves to be shaped by the experiences that unfold. We let go of resistance and allow life to unfold in its own time, knowing that it is always leading us to exactly where we need to be. Attachment to outcomes is a natural aspect of being human. We set goals, we dream about the future, and we often become fixated on how things should unfold. It's easy to imagine that our happiness, success, or sense of fulfillment depends on achieving a specific result. We think that once we reach that destination, everything will fall into place and we will finally feel content. But in doing so, we unknowingly bind ourselves to expectations and the fear of failure, which ultimately restricts our ability to experience life in its fullness. Letting go of attachment to outcomes frees us from this mental and emotional trap, allowing us to engage with life more fluidly and joyfully, without the constant pressure of trying to control or predict the future. When we are attached to a specific outcome, we often lose sight of the present moment. Our attention is consumed with the idea of what is to come, and this distracts us from fully engaging with what is happening right now. We are constantly looking ahead, imagining the result, and in doing so, we miss the richness of the process itself. Life is about the journey, not just the destination. Each step, every action we take, contains its own value, and when we fixate solely on the outcome, we strip away the inherent beauty of each moment along the way. Letting go of attachment to outcomes invites us to embrace the present, to immerse ourselves in the process, and to experience life more deeply. When we let go of attachment, we also free ourselves from the weight of expectations. Expectations are a form of control, a mental construct we impose on the future. We expect things to go a certain way, and when they don't, we feel disappointment, frustration, or even anger. But outcomes are inherently uncertain. Life is unpredictable, and no amount of wishing or planning can guarantee a particular result. By holding on to expectations, we set ourselves up for inevitable disappointment, as things rarely unfold in the exact way we envision them. When we release the need for things to go a certain way, we create space for flexibility, for seeing opportunities where we once saw obstacles, and for embracing the natural flow of life without resistance. Letting go of attachment to outcomes also helps us detach from the idea of success and failure. These concepts often become limiting, reducing our experience of life to binary judgment. Something is either a success or a failure. But in reality, success and failure are subjective, often based on how we measure our achievements. Life is not a linear path with a fixed destination, and the outcome of any endeavor is never entirely predictable. By letting go of attachment to a specific outcome, we move away from this black and white thinking. We begin to see that each experience, whether it aligns with our expectations or not, is a valuable part of the journey, offering insights, growth, and learning. We see that every action, regardless of its outcome, contributes to our evolution, and this understanding allows us to approach life with greater openness and less judgment. Moreover, attachment to outcomes often arises from fear, the fear of not being good enough, of failing, or of not achieving what we think we should. This fear can paralyze us, preventing us from taking risks, making decisions, or stepping into new experiences. We become so consumed by the potential for failure that we avoid taking action altogether. When we let go of the attachment to specific outcomes, we diminish the power of fear in our lives. We begin to take action not with the sole aim of achieving a particular result, but because the process itself has intrinsic value. We start to view every action as an experiment, an exploration, and an opportunity to learn and grow, regardless of the result. This shift in perspective frees us from the fear of failure, allowing us to move through life with greater courage and confidence. Letting go of attachment also fosters a deeper sense of trust. We begin to trust that things will unfold as they are meant to, and that even if the outcome is not what we expected or hoped for, it will serve a purpose in our lives. Trusting life means accepting that not everything is within our control, and that is okay. It means having faith that the universe, life, or whatever force you believe in, has its own rhythm and wisdom, and that sometimes the best thing we can do is let go and allow it to guide us. Trust brings a sense of peace, as it releases the need for constant striving and struggling. It reminds us that we are not alone in this journey, and that we can let go of the burden of trying to make everything turn out just right. In addition, letting go of attachment to outcomes allows for greater creativity and spontaneity. When we are attached to a specific result, we tend to limit our thinking, narrowing our options, and holding ourselves to a rigid vision of what success looks like. But life is not meant to be confined to a singular vision. It is full of unexpected twists, turns, and surprises. When we release our attachment to a predetermined outcome, we open ourselves up to new ideas, new possibilities. We become more adaptable, more willing to explore, and more attuned to the ever-changing flow of life. We stop forcing the future into a mold, and instead we allow it to evolve naturally, responding to the present moment as it comes. The freedom that comes with letting go of attachment to outcomes is also a gift of self-compassion. We often set high expectations for ourselves, believing that our worth is tied to what we achieve or accomplish. But this is a heavy burden to bear, and it can lead to burnout, frustration, and a constant feeling of inadequacy. By releasing the attachment to outcomes, we allow ourselves the space to be human, to make mistakes, to learn, to grow, and to simply be. We begin to value ourselves not for what we achieve, but for who we are in the process. We learn to embrace imperfection, to celebrate effort, and to recognize that our value does not depend on the outcomes we produce. Letting go of attachment to outcomes is a practice, one that requires mindfulness, patience, and awareness. It doesn't mean we stop setting goals, making plans, or striving for growth. It simply means that we release the need for things to unfold in a specific way, trusting that the journey itself holds inherent value. When we let go of attachment, we discover a deeper sense of peace, a more fluid approach to life, and a greater appreciation for the process of becoming. Life becomes less about what we accomplish and more about how we experience each moment. And in this way, we can approach each step with an open heart and a sense of freedom, knowing that the outcome is only one part of the greater whole. Life has a way of presenting us with recurring patterns, cycles that repeat themselves time and time again, often in subtle and unexpected ways. These patterns are not random or disconnected, rather, they are the rhythms of existence, deeply woven into the fabric of our lives. They show up in the people we meet, the choices we make, the challenges we face, and even in our emotional responses. Recognizing these patterns is not about predicting the future or controlling the outcome. It is about developing a deeper understanding of the forces that shape our experience and learning to navigate life with greater awareness. At the heart of recognizing the patterns of life is the awareness that everything is interconnected. No event, no experience, no person is isolated. Life is a complex web of cause and effect, where each moment influences the next, and where our actions, thoughts, and emotions ripple out into the world. Often we move through life unaware of these connections, reacting to events in a disconnected way, as though each moment is separate from the next. But when we begin to notice the patterns, we realize that life is not a series of isolated incidents, but a continuous flow of experiences that are part of a larger unfolding story. One of the most powerful patterns we can recognize is the cyclical nature of life itself. There are natural cycles in the world, the seasons, the phases of the moon, the rhythms of the tides, and these cycles mirror the patterns within our own lives. Just as nature goes through cycles of growth, decay, rest, and renewal, so too do we. We experience periods of expansion and contraction, times of activity and rest, moments of clarity and confusion. When we recognize these cycles, we begin to understand that the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys, are not anomalies but natural parts of the human experience. They are opportunities for growth, learning, and transformation. Embracing the cyclical nature of life allows us to move with greater ease through the different phases, knowing that each one serves a purpose and that the next phase is always on the horizon. Another pattern that often emerges is the repetition of lessons. Life has a way of presenting us with similar situations or challenges, sometimes in different forms or with different people, but always with the same underlying message. These recurring lessons are not coincidences, they are invitations to evolve. We may find ourselves facing similar relationship dynamics, repeating mistakes in our work or personal lives, or encountering the same internal struggles again and again. Recognizing these patterns allows us to stop reacting mindlessly to the situations and start asking, what is this trying to teach me? Instead of seeing these repeated experiences as frustrating or burdensome, we can begin to view them as opportunities for deeper understanding and personal growth. Every pattern we encounter offers the chance to break free from old habits, to heal past wounds, and to shift our perspective in a way that brings us closer to our true selves. The pattern of resistance is another common thread in life. Often when life presents us with something new or unexpected, our immediate response is to resist. We don't want to change, we don't want to let go of the familiar, and we fear what might happen if we embrace the unknown. But resistance is a pattern that only creates tension and struggle. By recognizing when we are resisting, we can learn to relax our grip and allow ourselves to flow with life rather than against it. Resistance often arises from a desire for control, but when we recognize it, we can choose to respond with acceptance rather than defensiveness. This recognition frees us from the cycle of fighting and pushing against life, and it invites us to meet challenges with openness and curiosity, knowing that life will unfold as it should. The pattern of change is an inevitable part of life. Just as the seasons shift, so too do our circumstances, relationships, and internal states. Yet we often cling to the idea of stability, of keeping things the same, because change can be uncomfortable and unpredictable. But change is a constant in the universe, and recognizing this pattern allows us to embrace the flow of life more fully. Instead of resisting change, we begin to welcome it as a natural part of our existence. The recognition of change allows us to loosen our attachment to the way things should be, and instead we learn to adapt and grow with the changing tides of life. Each new phase offers a chance for transformation, for reinvention, and for the discovery of new possibilities. The pattern of connection is also a fundamental part of life's design. We are all connected, whether we recognize it or not, through the relationships we share, the energies we exchange, and the ways in which we interact with the world. By recognizing the pattern of connection, we start to see that everything we do, think, or say affects others, and that the world is a reflection of our inner state. We also begin to understand that no person, no experience, no circumstance exists in isolation. Life is a shared experience, and the people we meet and the situations we encounter are part of the larger network of life's interconnected web. When we recognize this, we approach others with more compassion, empathy, and understanding, knowing that we are all walking this journey together. Another common pattern is the search for meaning. We all experience moments of doubt, questioning the purpose of our existence, the direction of our lives, or the significance of our actions. These moments are part of a larger pattern of seeking purpose, seeking answers, seeking connection. Recognizing this pattern helps us understand that the search itself is meaningful. It is through the search for meaning that we discover who we truly are, what we value, and what gives our lives depth and purpose. The search is not something to avoid or overcome, but something to embrace, for it is what guides us toward our higher selves and the wisdom we are meant to uncover. When we recognize the patterns of life, we begin to develop a deeper awareness of how we respond to the world around us. We stop reacting mindlessly to every circumstance, and instead we learn to observe, to reflect, and to choose our responses with greater clarity and intention. Life is not random. It is a series of interconnected moments, each offering opportunities for growth, learning, and transformation. By recognizing these patterns, we unlock the ability to live more consciously and to move through life with greater ease, grace, and understanding. We become more attuned to the ebb and flow of existence, able to ride the waves of life instead of struggling against them. In recognizing the patterns of life, we come to understand that we are not isolated individuals struggling against the current, but part of a vast interconnected web that constantly shifts, grows, and evolves. Each cycle, each challenge, and each lesson serves a purpose in our journey, guiding us toward greater self-awareness and a deeper connection with the world around us. By letting go of resistance, embracing change, and accepting the rhythms of life, we free ourselves from the illusion of control and allow ourselves to flow with the natural course of existence. In doing so, we move with more ease, more trust, and more wisdom, knowing that every moment is a chance to learn, grow, and become more in tune with the ever-unfolding patterns of the universe. Life, in all its unpredictability, becomes a beautiful dance and unfolding story where we are both the observer and the participant, learning to navigate its complexities with grace and presence.